And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm Henderson with you as we come to you live on a Monday night once again. Both of us down here in beautiful Sarasota, Florida. A great weekend of sports. Lots to talk about tonight. Got our World Series matchup all set to go. Some weird football. We'll get into that as well. And I know the G-Man is going to be joining us later. He'll be raring to go talk about his Colts last night. And John, a plethora of topics tonight. I guess we could start off with Jimmy Leland deciding that he won't be back with the Tigers next year.
Yeah, I did not realize he was 68 years old, to be honest with you. And, you know, watching him in the playoffs and watching him at the end of the season, they played a number of games against the Yankees, so you had a chance to see him not only on the Yes Network, but also at Yankee Stadium, and to see him in the playoffs. I guess he just felt that the engine was running short, and it was time for him to step aside. I mean, the Tigers still have a very, very good team. It wasn't the fact that he was going to be, you know, managing a dog team next year. I think he felt he got everything out of them this year that he could. And 68, I guess he just decided now is the time.
I heard a bit of his statement today, his press conference, about a minute or two before on the way home from work today on the radio, and that's pretty much what he said. You know, the tank's running low energy-wise. He felt, he did the best they could this year. It wasn't good enough. He actually apologized to Detroit fans for not bringing home a championship, but I mean, a pretty good run at Detroit in a World Series and a couple of league championships and a bunch of division titles as well. Of course, he's already won a World Series. He did that back with the unlikely Marlins back 16 years ago or so. So I think he's had that in his career. It's not like he's going out and never having won one, but he does not look in the best of health, unfortunately. He looks much older than his 68 years, so the season takes a toll on him.
Well, you remember they had to, even in spring training, had to talk to him about, he always went back in the tunnel or was in the dugout smoking. I think he pretty much tried to stop the smoking altogether, but it was a big part of his lifestyle. And, again, I just say, and as you indicated just a moment ago, 68 is, that's a tough business when you're 68 years old, and he didn't get a break. A lot of his key players got hurt in time for the final round and against the Red Sox, and things just didn't go, their way. They made a couple of really bonehead plays in the last game that took things away from them, and so it's just one of those things. And I think he just said, look, I've had as you and I talked earlier today. He did it once before at a much younger age. I mean, he'd been in Pittsburgh, he'd been in Miami, he'd won, as you indicated, a World Series, and but he didn't. When he got to Denver, for some reason, all of a sudden he thought, then that was the time I'm going to give it up. But he eventually later on came back and did a great job in Detroit. But I think time caught up with him.
Yeah, that whole experience with the Rockies was kind of unusual. He took that job and. I don't think he finished out that season, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it was a very short run there. He just decided he couldn't do it anymore, and he thought that was the end of his career as a manager. Maybe he'd be a scout or whatever he wanted to do, but he did come back a few years later with the Tigers, had a great run there. Of course, I forgot to even mention the Pittsburgh run, where he had those great teams in the early 90s until Pirates did it this year. That was the last great Pittsburgh team, the one he skippered back in 92.
Exactly right, and he had a great team there, and they made a number of runs. He didn't win a world championship there, but as you indicated, the most unlikely of places, he went to Miami, and all of a sudden, the Marlins, put together a pretty meaningful team, and they've done it twice. They did, they did it first with him, and then they did it later on with Trader Jack, so but there was a lot of hesitation, and you'll remember a lot of hesitation about hiring Jimmy Lehman when he decided he wanted to come back, because everybody had said, well, look what happened, with the Rockies. He didn't make the year. We're going to hire somebody, even though he's a great manager, we're going to hire him, and he's going to say, well, I don't think I really want to get back into this. So, but eventually he did. Detroit acquiesced and signed him, and he did a great job out there.
He operated the last couple of years on one-year deals. He didn't want to sign a long-term deal the last couple of seasons. So I think he kind of knew 2 or 3 years ago, he was coming down to the end. He didn't know how long it would be, so he didn't want to take the long-term deal. But he said today he realized back in September, maybe he realized before that, but he didn't tell the owner until September after a game in Kansas City that he was going to make this his last year. So he told the owner about a month or so ago.
Yeah, so he pretty much, it's of all the years that, I've been around watching sports and you've been around watching sports, Mariano Rivera is the only one I know that actually went out what I would consider at the very top of his game. I mean, he could have come back for another year, probably 2 more years, and he made the announcement at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you had a chance to see, they did a 1-hour show with him on Charlie Rose on the educational channel.
Yeah. Quite a bit of it.
Yeah, Charlie did a very, very nice job with Mariano, and then ESPN, of course, doing the documentary, 42 and the whole thing, the whole procedure, what happened from the beginning of spring training until the end, was also very well done. So, but he's the only one I can really think of. I guess Jim Brown would have to fall in that category too. But
Jim Brown, yeah, he went out.
He was still at the top of his game when he went out.
29, I think, is all he was when he left the game. So
yeah.
And they're going to do another documentary coming up on Fox Sports 1, their new network. I saw that being promoted over the weekend on the baseball. I think that's coming up tomorrow night. So yeah, a bunch of all the networks doing their share on Mariano. I did see a little bit of that interview though with Charlie Rose, who did a very in-depth interview with him, and Mariano very good. I thought he did a good job with it.
Yeah, and Charlie not really at least to the best of my knowledge. Right. Yeah, I've never even seen him do a sports interview before. So that, first of all, that surprised me when he did it. And number two, that it came out as well as it did. I thought he did an excellent job, and Mariano was very forthright, came out with a lot of very interesting information with Charlie, and it was a good show to watch. I don't know if they'll replay it, but it was very well done.
I saw one other sports interview he did back during the Masters this year. He had Jack Nicklaus on for a whole hour, which was very good. He did
I did not see that. Yeah, I did not see that.
But, anyway, so Jim Leland will not be back. He said he'll probably, may take a job in the organization or whatever, but a lot of managerial openings now. When you look at it now, you have now Detroit, Cincinnati, who fired Dusty Baker. You have Washington, Dave Johnson not coming back there. You have Seattle open, and Don Mattingly is still up in the air a little bit, although I did see a crawl over ESPN that the Dodgers do want him back, but I don't know what kind of deal they're going to give him. So you got 3 or 4 managerial openings right now.
I'll be honest with you. I'm really surprised primarily about Washington because Davey Johnson had said at the beginning of the year that this was it. He did the same thing that Jimmy Leland did with the Tigers, telling the ownership, in the first part of September that this was going to be his last year. Well, he'd take it one step further because in the case of the Nationals, they knew from day one of spring training that he was not coming back. I would have thought they would have had somebody, pretty much lined up to step right in, but they don't.
Yeah, there's talk of Cal Ripken being floated around.
Right.
I doubt he'd go there. He's so close to Baltimore, but that's the name you've heard. Of course, Girardi, before the Yankees re-signed him, that was one of the places they thought he might look at, other than the Cubs. But he had some interesting jobs open there, and Cincinnati and Detroit and Washington, all pretty good teams. You're not going into a place with a crummy team. You got to rebuild. Seattle, that's kind of up in the air. You don't know what you're going to get there, but be interesting to see who takes those. If any of the older guys want to come back, or they just kind of go like the Cardinals and the Red Sox have done with the younger guys that have been in the organization.
Well, they went to Davey Johnson initially there, and I think he did an excellent job. Unfortunately, they got off to such a disastrous start. If you looked at what the Nationals did from probably mid-August until the end of the year, they were a pretty good club, but for a number of reasons, they just didn't get out of the gate effectively, and they had a young team, and maybe people sort of overestimated what they were going to do, and then he had a couple of pitchers go down again, which really hurts any club, especially one that's really thin, and but I was surprised. I would have thought they would have had, like July or August, they would have had, an umpire in the wings ready to sign that he was going to take over, the minute that Davies finished the season. But really have not heard anything definitive about who they're going to hire yet.
No other names come out yet. And I did hear today that maybe Tigers looking at, it'd be great if they could bring Kirk Gibson up there. Because I don't know what his deal is with Arizona. But it'd be interesting if Kirk Gibson went back to Detroit, where he had some glory back in the early 80s under Henderson.
I was going to say they would be bringing back a Michigan hero, very similar to the Phillies bringing Lineberg, because he really had a very good success early on in Philly, and then of course went to Chicago and set all the records, and so Philly was sort of a city in waiting for him to come back and rejoin the club and become a manager. So I guess that wouldn't be a bad choice for Detroit either. You're right.
Nolan Ryan, a little bit of a surprise, I thought, when I saw the story. I guess it was Friday night. I'm not
right.
That he's being the Rangers actually selling his interest in the team, and that's it for him. I mean, you hope it's not a health situation. I know he's had some of the heart operation not too long ago and a couple other things, but I'm a little surprised that he's given up that.
Well, if you remember during spring training, there was a little bit of a rough down there as to, and they talked about, what he has succeeded in doing with the Rangers, and again, over 3 million people at the stadium, some of the players they brought in. But if you remember, in early April, in March and April, spring training and then into the regular season, there was a little controversy about, was he really going to stay on as president and general manager? Were they going to do something else? So I think what happened there, again, now you're talking about age there as well. I think maybe he just decided, this is it. I had 5 great years here. The club was very, very good. Not good enough to get to the World Series, but good enough to really play well and draw 3 million people the last 2 years. And maybe he just felt like, maybe I can't get any better than this. I better stop while I'm ahead.
And his son is still going to be involved. I think his son is the VP or whatever. But
right.
I just kind of thought, I think they're starting up their own, kind of their version of the Yes channel, the Yankees and the Dodgers channel that they have. I think the Rangers are starting up their network next year, I thought. So I thought he might want to hang around and get that going. And
right. And also remember that sort of effective for what's happening with Houston, because their sports channel own part of the team, and they're a very big part of it. So you're probably right there. I would have thought, maybe as you just said, that he would have stayed on just to work in the television area or something like that without being president and general manager. But it looks as though he's just going to step aside.
Yeah. A lot of changes in baseball. Then we'll get to the World Series in a minute, but just want to talk a little bit about a couple of really good old-time sports figures. We lost again over the weekend, and both kind of connected to each other, John. You look at Bug Phillips, who passed away, and then Bud Adams today, both with the Houston Oilers and then eventually the Tennessee Titans with Bud. But both those men, I believe, both 90 years old.
Well, Bud Adams, I can tell you, I was just on a plane with him. We were out in California, and I'm sorry, we were on the wine train. He was on the wine train. Out in Napa. He was on the wine train in Napa, and a person was sitting next to me. I didn't even recognize him. He was in another car behind us, and they came in and said, Bud Adams is here. I said, oh, my God. And so that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But as you say, we're losing some people left and right now, and it's unfortunate.
Now, Bud he was an oil man, right? I know he's one of the original owners in the AFL, but was he an oil man? Is that where he made his money?
I think so. I'm not positive about that, but I believe that's where it came from at the outset. Yes.
Yeah, Houston Oilers, of course, was originally in the AFL, and it was a good team early on. I think they won a couple AFL championships, and of course then they went to the NFL, moved to Tennessee 15, 16 years ago or so.
Yeah, they were most famous. They were most famous for George Blanda being, the quarterback, and eventually winding up being, I guess, the oldest kicker in the history of the National Football League. I can't remember any older. But, he had some good teams, and then the Ellen Bethea team that they had, they were a few years where they had good teams then, and then they fell on some hard times, and things sort of disappeared for them. And now this year they were really chosen before the season started to be a dominant team, and it just all fell apart. I mean, they have just had a terrible time getting out of the gate.
Yeah, tough loss yesterday to San Francisco, but
right.
the teams in the 70s, like you mentioned, Bethea, they had remember Dan Pastorini was
right.
the star quarterback for a bit. Of course, Earl Campbell, great running back, just punishing running back. From your alma mater, Don, right, Texas?
Yep, and Elvin Bethea was from my hometown, as Al Downing was, a fine pitcher for the Yankees who threw the home run to Henry Aaron down at Fulton County Stadium. Yeah, Al Downing was from Trenton, or is from Trenton. He lives in California now. But, I saw him play in high school, saw him play in American Legion ball, saw him play in the minor leagues and the major leagues. Yeah, Al Downing was from Trenton. And so was Bo Polisky from Trenton, through the no-hitter. He was a real character, but he was from Trenton also, and we've had some. But Elvin Bethea he was just a terrific player.
Yeah, we had him on a long time ago at the other station in town here, John. Had a chance. I think he had a book out at the time. He did have a book out at the time. We had him on the phone. Real good interview.
Yeah, good guy. Very good guy. I think he still lives in Houston, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he did, at least then, when we talked to him. But
right.
Well, Trenton is like the Brooklyn of New Jersey, John. Everyone's famous comes from Trenton.
Well, I'll tell you, the state capital has had some strange things happen over the years. Not the least of which were some of the athletes that came out.
Now you have the mayor, actually the mayor of Newark, actually, he's now the senator.
Oh, yeah.
Special election.
Well,
you'll find out all about that when you go back up and visit. Well, give us a report.
I know a lot about Booker, and I'll say this: that he's a Democrat, and he'll be tough to beat in the general election. He won the primary by I think 6 points, something like that. But Mr. Booker, Newark, New Jersey, before Detroit declared bankruptcy under Booker. The school system in Newark is now taken over by the state of New Jersey. They couldn't pay their bills, so the state of New Jersey is now paying the teachers at the public schools in Newark. And but he's like some other people we know, a dynamic speaker and a colorful guy. But I don't think you want to look at his administrative skills too closely.
I believe, Don, I think he's in there now. He finishes out Lautenberg's term. So
right.
That wasn't a primary. That was a special election. So however long Lautenberg's term was left, a year or two, he's in. So he doesn't have to run until maybe next year. But,
we'll see what happens when he gets there.
You can't ruin any municipalities while he's in the Senate.
He's got that right. Then he got into that, I don't know if you remember that, but he got into that controversy with Letterman.
Yeah.
And finally Letterman had him, he he wanted to come on and extol the virtues of Newark and what he's done for Newark.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Okay. Hot water.
He's a whirling dervish. he loves the front page. And I forget how many people he saves their lives now. It must be 2 or 3 that he's run into fire, houses that were on fire, and cars that were on fire, and he ran in and saved their lives. He's a very colorful guy.
The environment, and don't spend any money, public money. Well, anyway, we got off the track there, but just kind of remembering Bud Adams, of course, Tom Phillips, known for the fumble roost he played. Remember that time?
Yes, I do. And let's face it, his son's been very successful in the National Football League as well.
Until recently.
He's
not his fault always, but I mean, he's been a very successful defensive coach. And
his days in Dallas at the end were not too good.
No. And Houston's not doing too well right now, but he's a good defensive coach and hasn't had great success as a head coach, but good coordinator.
Yep. But we certainly feel badly about Bum. Bum was for a guy that was as stoic and quiet when you watch him on TV and so forth. He was a very good coach. I mean, he had years where he really had pretty good teams.
He did. Those Houston teams they always ran into the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs.
Right.
They got knocked out pretty much every year by them, either in the first or second round. But they were good Houston Oilers teams. And when they played in the Astrodome, that was a great home field advantage for the most part, playing in that Astrodome.
Boy, I'll tell you, I was never in a bigger dump in my life than that Astrodome.
Was it bad inside? I never been down there.
I want to tell you, terrible. And now they're doing a whole reclamation project. They're going to try to make it not going to try. They're going to make it like part of a mall, and they're going to rebuild it, redo it. But oh my God, when you went in there,
it's still there. I thought they were now. So something is still there. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, as far as I know, unless they've changed the plan. That was the last plan I heard. They were going to, redo the whole place. But man, you never saw so many rats in your life living in that place. I mean, it was. You talk about dark and dreary, and oh my God!
Really? Wow.
Maybe when it first opened up, I mean, maybe it was okay then. But I was down there a number of times because Houston used to play.
Right?
Yeah, football, and they used to play. Yeah, they played in the Astrodome, and boy, I'll tell you, the last time I was there for a football game. Unbelievable! you wanted to run out faster than you got in. I'll tell you that.
I remember when they first built it. I heard the story that they actually tried to grow grass in there.
Right.
And they had to invent what became AstroTurf. That's why they called it that. But they actually tried to grow grass and have the lights or whatever on the ceiling, but it just wouldn't work. But yeah, so that was the original. Birth of AstroTurf, the grass wouldn't grow indoors. Yeah,
well, if I remember correctly, it was initially that they didn't have the clouded glass up at the top. They thought they could have the sunshine, and nobody could see the ball. If the ball went up in the air, nobody knew where it was.
Worse than the trop.
It's unfortunate that the top gets a bid. It really gets I feel sorry for the people there.
Hammered. Every show you see, they hammer the trop.
Well,
I mean,
not only that, every time you have a national game like the playoffs that the Rays were just in, and what happens in the first or second game, the ball goes up, hits the rafters, and is it a foul ball? Is the ball in play? And they have to go through the whole procedure about which ring it hits. And which ones are in play, which ones are dead balls, and I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, they may have some hit the rings, Monday night somewhere where they're playing the Cubs or something, and nobody, really says much about it. But when they're playing the Yankees and it's on national TV or it's a playoff game, then Joe's got to give the whole orangutan about, the trop is really not a bad place to play, which it isn't, but it does have the one problem. I mean, if the ball gets up in there and hits the circles, and then you have to make a determination as to what do you have to do then.
I remember they passed out the ground rules one night in the press box. I think we were up there that night, where they tell you, the A and the B ring mean one thing, the C and the D ring mean something else. I'm still not sure which is which, but yeah, it's a whole, like a sheet of paper, just for the rings.
Yeah, and as I say, unfortunately, I mean, we've seen a lot of games there where the ball's never hit any rings, but it just seems so unfortunate that it happens when the Yankees are in town or when it's a national game. And then, the whole national media, and especially the New York media, well, who wants to play in a dump like this, but, they don't talk about, the right field, Yankee Stadium, where you hit a ball, it could be a fly ball anywhere in the world, it's a home run, and, so, every ballpark, the same thing with, Fenway Park, they glorify the wall, and, they don't glorify the rings at the Trop, I'll tell you that.
No, not at all. Well, it looks like our friend the G-Man has been practicing his Colt chant here, so let's see if we can bring him on and see how he's feeling today. The partied all night. And G-Man, is that you?
Yeah. Listen, speaking of dark and dreary and dead grass, it sounds like you're talking about my backyard, but at any rate, I'm really sorry for calling in late again, but you know what? I've been on 4 hours trying to fill out that Obamacare thing, and I never could get it, and they signed me a navigator, but when I called for the navigator, that he was arrested for identity theft, so I don't know. I realized I didn't need it because, I have my veterans benefits, and I'm on Medicare, so... Anyway,
well, the other thing, if you listen to the president today, which was really remarkable, he said, I can't understand that it's only costing these people $100 to sign up. Well, not only is the computer system failing, but I want to see them come up with $100 to pay up front.
Well, we won't carry on. I will tell you this much. A good friend of mine from Ball State University was signing up for it. He does qualify, and he got to the question instead of asking how many guns did he have, did he own guns? And then the next question on it was how much ammo do you own? He kept going down and it wanted his, not only his Social Security, but it wanted his bank account number. So he immediately went, click. So anyway, why they're not asking people, why they're not telling people the questions they're asking, what's that got to do with your health insurance? But anyway, hey, the Colt game last night, reveling in the Colt game. Actually, I thought I had it predicted pretty good. I thought the Colts would have a substantial lead, and then Manning would work it down and with a last-second shot win the game, and Denver would walk away, and that didn't happen. So but here's the deal: if you have a fantasy football team, according to the fantasy football rules, it's on yardage, and Manning had more yardage than Luck did, so I guess Manning won, but in fantasy football.
Well, I'll tell you, I thought it was a very interesting game, to be honest with you. I really did. I thought Luck really did a very, very solid job. I thought from a defensive standpoint, they emphasized it time and time again how they were, totally man-to-man coverage, zone coverage in the ball game to try to put a lot of responsibility on the individual players, but they came through pretty well. And I thought it was a terrific game, but I really did. I knew all the way along that Manning was going to bring them back. And then where he really would have brought them back without that fumble at the half-yard line, with what, a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go, it would have been a 2-point game, and no telling he might have won the game by, just getting him in field goal range and kicking a field goal. So they got some breaks along the way, I got to say that.
Yeah, they did get some breaks, but one of the worst breaks they got was Reggie Wayne's out for the season.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
That's going to affect, I think half the NFL is out for the season after watching all the games and seeing the tremendous amount of injuries that occurred this weekend. No need to rehash them, but good grief, some good players went down and out, all the way from QBs to running backs to defensive guys. But Reggie Wayne not in the picture. That's instrumental. So we'll see. But is it luck?
What he had a string of 287 straight games or something like that?
Yeah, something like it. Yeah. Well, I think I made a comment. Remember, I made a comment the number of catches this guy had made in the last time we talked, and the number of yards, and then now this happened. So, but Andrew Luck, second-year QB, was, in my opinion, against a good club and not only this club, but San Francisco and the Seahawks. Like I said, I've been pretty quiet on the Colts. I'm still going to sit back with a little bit since the injuries, but Luck is he's terrific. I mean, he's got a great head. He sees the field, and I'm totally impressed with what I'm seeing with this guy, more so than I have seen with any quarterback in a long time.
I would agree, and I also thought, I don't know whether you stayed up to watch the after game when they interviewed him on the field. They had three players, and he was the first one, of course, that interviewed. And like they all do, they tried to is this personal satisfaction for you now you beat Manning? Is this? I mean, what kind of? Here's the guys playing in a football game, and sure, it's nice to beat Manning and nice to beat Denver and nice to beat Fox and all that. But I mean, the game's the game. He's got to win. Do you think he's worried about during the game who's quarterbacking the other team?
Not really. You know the thing that I felt about this whole setup was, and I don't know what you guys think of Irsay, and Irsay's a goofball when it comes to Twitter.
He's a jerk.
But he's a jerk. But I got to tell you,
I heard you were his speechwriter that came in. Didn't you write that speech for him last week?
Something like that. You know what, though? Irsay played this down to the hilt. I think he set it up in such a way with halftime and with Peyton that the mind game that Irsay played, you gotta give him hats off. I'm sorry, but whether you like him or not, he's a jerk. But he did it right down to the core. And the other thing that I found was interesting, that a lot of the players who thought he was a jerk now are giving him accolades. Now I was watching a thing today on a couple of the Colts, and they were saying, "Listen, this is a different guy now. He's changed a lot." But Irsay was instrumental in this whole thing, any way we look at it. So
he was instrumental. He was instrumental in taking him out of Baltimore in the middle of the night too.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, they're
real nice guy. Real nice guy. He loved the people in Baltimore, and he loved the Baltimore Colts, one of the traditional teams in the National Football League. And when they got up on Monday morning, the team was gone.
Yeah, he's nuts. I mean, anywhere you look at that was. By the way, I was in Baltimore on a business trip when that all occurred. And it was really funny because they got on that,
you helped
the Baltimore.
You helped them load the trucks. You helped them load the trucks, I heard.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it got a little scary because if you heard that song about the Baltimore Transit and how, well, you better believe it, because if you've ever ridden that can be pretty scary. But I got on there and this guy, there was a couple of people sitting there, and they saw our suitcases, and they said, "Well, you're out of place. What are you doing on the train here going through Baltimore?" And I told him we were from Indiana. He goes, "Oh, Indiana." He took over our team. He says, "Oh, no." He says, "We're not going to forget that either." Well, we laughed about it. But, yeah, they weren't happy at that time. But
they're not happy now.
No, well... Yeah, well, not at the moment. But
they still think United and Moore are playing in Baltimore.
And
I heard the press conference that Irsay had. I mean, he sounded pretty incoherent. Did you hear any of that? It was awful listening to that.
Irsay is nuts. Any way you look at it, guys, he's a bit on the crazy side. And everybody will tell you that, too. And he said he hasn't had a drink for 15 years now, and yeah, he was a heavy drinker, and he was this or that, but I don't know. All I know is I sit back from a distance and watch these guys, and Irsay amazes me what comes out of his mouth. But
in all fairness, Irsay, that you could say the same thing about every other owner that owned one of the teams that moved in they didn't move in the middle of the night, like sneak out of town. Yeah, that's the same thing. Art Modell in Cleveland going to Baltimore. I mean, and, they do it. I mean, how about Milwaukee? How about they got Henry Aaron, and they got the greatest teams in the world in Milwaukee, and they wind up in Atlanta, and they got to put a new team in. So they all do it. I mean, it's all for the money. Let's face it.
Well, look at the history of the ownerships. I mean, from Jerry Jones all around the place. And what was that guy that went to jail? I can't remember his name. They had him on. They were talking about this earlier today, about the crazy owners out there. And see, you never know what might happen. But anyway, that game last night was what I have been waiting for, because I am really, I've never liked, I don't care for, I've never been, and I'm sorry for all you Denver fans out there, but I've never cared for Denver. The only good thing that happened to Denver was when Tebow was there for a few games. So that's me, I mean, everybody's different. They have their clubs they like. And
well, that was a game last night where you saw some of the weaknesses that Denver has. I mean, they fumbled quite a bit, and they got to Peyton Manning more than they have in the last 2 years. So the Colts at least found some kind of blueprint, at least for one game.
Hats off to the defense. The defense mixed it up. They pulled out some things. It's kind of a goofy defense. They picked up players from other teams, and they were set up in ways that I haven't seen for quite some time. And I don't think that Denver, even though it was a high-scoring game on both sides, the D was different. I mean, they had some unusual setups that look at some of the stuff that happened. I mean, I was shocked by the whole game, actually. So anyway, hats off to the Colts, and they may be a team to contend with.
Now, when do they play the Chiefs? They got 2 games with the Chiefs. Now, those are going to be interesting, Don. Chiefs came away with a 1-point win yesterday, and they're still on the field.
Andy Reid, we were talking about just before you got on, Jimmy, we were talking about Jimmy Leyland leading the Detroit Tigers. Well, Jimmy Leyland came in, and they had some young players who were about ready to turn the corner in Detroit, but Andy Reid walked into heaven on earth. I mean, the players that he inherited plus the players they drafted, I mean, to jump out of the gate 7-0 and play the way they have is remarkable. Andy was a great coach at Philly. I mean, he just, for the number of years he was there, all coaches sort of, lose their, they start not to listen to the voice of the coach after a while when they've won a lot, and they did win a lot in Philadelphia. And he got out there, and boy, oh boy, has he got himself a team. Unbelievable.
He does, I agree. Yeah, and they're getting some breaks, but that's all right. That's football. You never know which way the breaks are going to go, but it's very interesting to see the Chiefs 7-0. That was a good game, by the way. That was a terrific game. And right there at the end, that was smart. Just go ahead and down it. I mean, forget it and win it by 1 point. Who cares?
Well, I saw the worst game yesterday. I saw Dallas and the Eagles play yesterday, and
that was pretty bad.
That set the National Football League back 50 years. Well, they had 11 punts in the first. I don't know if it was at halftime, but it was close to halftime. They'd already had 11 punts in the game.
Well, they got a major issue on the QT.
For your high octane offense under Chip Kelly, not doing too well.
No, they're not. And yet this was a battle for first place in the NFL East. Neither team any good.
Well, I watched parts of the game, but they've got a QB issue that's serious. So.
If Foles is out with concussion now, so then Vic's got to come back off the hamstring. I guess he's back next week, right, Don? He can come off the DL, right?
Yeah, I believe that is correct. And the most interesting game yesterday, and you and I talked about it after the game was over, and I watched Rex Ryan on SNY. After the game was over, they always do the recap on SNY. And there's a play. I know it's a new rule, but I've never heard of it. You know, I thought the tuck rule, when that came in and happened against Oakland, I thought that was a marvel. Yeah, I thought that was a marvel rule that they put in. But this one is unbelievable. The last time I saw any kind of a rule change on kicking extra points or field goals, remember when they would stack players on top of each other and try to block it? They outlawed that. But I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, holy smokes. They push each other all over the place on every play. Now you're going to say he pushed them and therefore it's a 15-yard penalty? Give me a break.
Personal foul. Unsportsmanlike. Unsportsmanlike.
It had nothing to do with the kick either. It didn't affect the kick.
No.
The kick was just no good. But, I mean, you give them 15 more yards and let them kick one from 42 instead of 50-something. I mean, holy moly. And in an overtime game and you make a call like that?
When was the last time you saw a field goal blocked? I mean, come on, push the guy from behind. Give me a break. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I very seldom get on the officials. I don't think, in the most part, I think the calls go both ways. You said a minute ago, gee, man, you know, you may get a lucky break this week, but you may get a bad break next week. You know, I don't think officials over 60 minutes of football win or lose the game. But this was a call that was absolutely unnecessary to make. I mean, let the game continue in overtime. Don't call something like that. You know, I mean, it just didn't make any sense. That was like the guys that are going to call on a Hail Mary. They're going to call pass interference in the end zone. I mean, come on.
Well, like calling holding. You can call holding every play if you want, but you call it when it's, you know, when it's a flagrant violation. So you got to be judicious on that. I think the ref just wanted to call that because you know, he had a new rule there. He said, all right, I'm going to call it now and make a name for myself. So I didn't call that in overtime.
I have no idea. I mean, you know, the same thing in basketball, but you're in an overtime period, you're at the end of the game, and you can make a call like that on a rebound or something. I mean, it doesn't. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's all.
No. That was sad. And there's also a lot of the players. Man, they're upset. Go ahead.
Another good game yesterday was the Washington and Chicago game. How about that one?
Right.
A couple of players got injured in that one. Cutler's out, and you know, tough situation for him.
Yeah, Cutler's out for a while with that groin injury. That's not going to heal up in a week or so. They're really in trouble there with quarterbacks. But going back to the other play for a minute, you know, if I haven't had a chance to look on the computer yet and follow it up. Has it ever been called this year? In all the games that have been played, has anybody ever called?
That was the first time it's been called, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's what I'm... Well, why would you call it then? I mean, you know, they've had a heck of a lot of games played so far. I mean, at least if it had gotten some publicity in a game that was, 37-7, and it happened, and you know, everybody in the league said, well, they're going to call this. But in an overtime period between those two teams, I mean, it just didn't make any sense.
No, it was not rational. That was a bad call, any way you look at it, period. Hey, did you guys just hear about Don Mattingly may not return next year? He's questioning it.
We were talking about that. The Dodgers sort of said they would bring him back, but, you know, they hadn't any details on the contract yet. But, what's
kind of like sometime, yeah.
You know,
well, I think it's because he's money, I think.
You think, they don't want to give him a real long term. They probably want to give him 2 or 3 years tops.
Well, that may be. Magic never signed for 2 or 3 years, but now that he's an owner, he realizes what 2 or 3 years is all about.
Yeah.
Magic, he's not the GM too, is he? He seems like he's
No. Coletti's the GM. He's just an owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he seems like he's making some decisions, old Magic there. He's at every game.
Yeah.
He's a spokesman, so
makes a lot of
apparently the LA they don't really like him out there. The media out there they don't really like him anyway, from what you hear.
Well, remember, they wanted to fire him in April, May. I mean, because they got off to such a terrible start. And let's face it, he got in because he was, handpicked by Joe before he left. And if he does not sign a new contract, guaranteed he'll have a job pretty quickly. I don't think maybe not with his team it's going to be as good as LA is for the next 10 years while these guys are spending all this money. But somebody's going to offer him a managerial job.
Who's going to replace Leland? Who's going to replace Leland?
Speculated. We were talking about Kirk Gibson. That was a name that somebody mentioned today, I heard. I don't know what his deal is with Arizona, but that would be a guy that would fit right in there.
Huh. I didn't even think about Kirk Gibson being in there.
Well, he's a Michigan hero, so between football and baseball, why he's got a lock on being well received in Detroit. No question about that.
Yeah. Good point, guys. Yeah.
And it's another city that's in bankruptcy, so
Yeah. Big match.
Maybe Detroit will maybe the Tigers will have to move to another city. I don't know.
I don't think so. Mr. Ford has a lot of money out there. He can take care of whatever needs to be done.
I'm kidding.
Old Dave Bain couldn't turn that city around. He was from there. Remember old Dave Bain?
No. The only guy that turned the city around was Clint Eastwood when he was in Carmel. He turned that city around.
That's right. He did a good job out there.
But he's the only one that's really turned the city around, made it more valuable than it was when he came in.
Can you imagine Clint Eastwood as a coach?
He's good enough last year, or he played the baseball scout. That was pretty good.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He did.
I think he better stay being an actor. I don't think he better stay.
No.
He would probably prove out the Peters principle to the utmost.
Say, who's going to win tonight? Anyway, did you already talk about that? I missed that.
No, we did not.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that. I think the Giants finally wake up tonight. They're going against Freeman, hasn't played in a month, so I think the Giants finally get number one.
Well, I think they got to win a game at home. I mean, I can't imagine that they can lose this game. As you said, Freeman, with all the problems they have here, and of course, today, G-Man probably didn't have a chance to see all the newscasts, and boy, but Seattle he's skating on very thin ice right now, and they made a good point today in defense of Seattle because they play Thursday night. And, to change a coach with 2 days to go, even though they've got on the staff former head coaches in the National Football League, they could make an interim coach right away. But after Thursday night's game, if they were to lose that, then they've got 10 days to have somebody else, reorchestrate what they want to do. And so there's a much better chance that they would fire him on Friday than there would be that they'd fire him on Tuesday.
That's a scintillating game coming up with the Panthers on Thursday night football. Then later, a few weeks later, the Bucs are on Monday night football.
Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Can't wait. Yeah.
We got Giants. We talked about that before, so I think he's your interim coach no matter what happens.
Right. Well, hey, listen, how many people outside of the city of New York want to see the Giants play? I mean, come on. They haven't won a game yet. It's like watching Tampa Bay. I mean, they haven't even been close. Tom Coughlin, wonderful, wonderful coach. I mean, it's just unfortunate. The sequence of events have gone totally against him. Eli's having a season for disaster. And, you know Tom Coughlin's a good coach, but boy, oh boy, he's got a lot of heat too.
What's wrong with the team? I mean, when you look at the team, you look at the players, you look at the QB and the coaching.
They're old.
Well, yeah, I guess. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe that's what's in favor of KC. They're not old. And then the same thing with the Colts. I mean, when you look at it, you have to wonder, man. Surely they can pull the win off tonight.
Well, they made a miracle comeback last year, you'll remember. And, nobody thought they were going to get to the playoffs last year. The year before, they barely made the playoffs to get it, and then played the greatest football of their lives, in the playoffs and going into the Super Bowl. But they got old. They got old all at once, and they got a number of injuries to go along with it. And the wide receiver stock was really low. And, it'll be interesting to see how many games they can actually win this year. Well, even if they win tonight against Minnesota and Freeman, what can they do after that? I mean, it's going to be very interesting. Are they going to come away with a 3-win season, a 4-win season? And then you add on the number of dollars that those people are paying for those seats and the licensing fee they're playing, and you're going to get a team that wins 3 or 4 games? Oh, boy, that's going to not fit very well.
Yeah, not good. It's not going to go over good. Not with the Giants, no. Guys,
I was going to say before we get to that, G-Man, I want to spend a minute on this whole gambling state situation, Don. Isn't that a weird story? With them now, today they went back to practice. I saw that earlier, but man, that's a storied program, even though it's not upper level as far as Division I goes, but storied program. Eddie Robinson had it for a long time, but what a shame over there. Huh?
Well, our good friend in the New York Post had a major article on that today.
Right?
Yeah, he was comparing it to the Baylor 71-7 win on Saturday afternoon, and what do you have to do? I mean, you have to beat it. And he talked about the greatest coach at Grambling and the fact that he did that all the time. He ran the score up all the time, 50, 60, 70. And what are you proving by beating a team 61-7? And as I say, he pointed out the Baylor game where they could have very easily cut it off at 54, or he could have cut it off at 48. He didn't say 48, but I think his figure was, much like today, I think it was 64. But it was somewhere in there anyway. But, what do you want to beat a team 71-7? I mean, I agree with Phil 100%. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. It's like playing a basketball game and beating these teams 75-19. I mean, what's the sense of doing it? It doesn't even make. I mean, that's not what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's amazing what the kids did, and it's going to make national headlines.
Well, they made Eddie Robinson a hero. I mean, a Hall of Fame coach, named trophies after him. I mean, he continually did that, ran scores up.
No, I didn't know that part of it. I just figured I knew he was there a long time. I didn't know he was running up the score. But I mean, it's falling apart, that program, as far as the facilities, the players said the uniforms weren't washed properly, weight room is a mess. So, and they weren't getting the answers they wanted from administrators. So they just said we're not going to show up. I thought that was kind of odd.
Well, it's very difficult.
Earlier this year, and then the interim coach, apparently he wasn't too good either, so they didn't want to deal with him anymore. So they fired him.
The thing is that, to be honest with it, let's face the facts here. It's like the Negro Baseball League. The Negro Baseball League was wonderful. But as soon as, black Americans got to be in Major League Baseball, the Negro Leagues were dead. And what's happening now...
Black colleges that weren't, black students weren't allowed in any white colleges, so they had to
that's
go to
right.
white college.
That's right, and that's all over with now. So they can't recruit they have no money. They can't recruit the top kids to go there. They want to go to school. It's going to be on TV, and it's going to be doing all the things. As Phil said in the context of another part of that article today, They want to be on a team that's on TV so they can do somersaults in the end zone. It is. It's crazy, but that's exactly what they want. They want to be, where they can make jackasses of themselves, and ESPN and Sports Center can put it on 20 times a day.
Yeah. I saw Mike Tomlin, when he told his Steelers no more flips into the end zone. But somebody's going to break their back doing that. I saw that at least 3 times.
Yeah, they're going to mess up.
Yeah. Thank you, man. You told us about the race.
Well, I hope you guys had an opportunity to see Talladega. That's my favorite race.
Talladega.
Biggest, baddest, fastest track out there, and you know what? There was only a couple yellows in that race. It was great. It was clean. Danica was doing real good. She got stepped and made a bad move on the pits, but they made it pretty far back in the field. Yeah, but overall, it was a great race. I thought it was well done. It was a fast track. It's a little over 2+ mile track, and 168 laps. But I was really glad to see McMurray win that, and it was a good race all the way around. Now we've got 4 races left. We got Martinsville coming up, Texas, Phoenix, and then we ended up with Homestead in Miami, Florida. You guys ought to go up and see that. Or down.
Well, I'll tell you, they could have used that new system in dry tracks. I know it's not going to go into effect until next year. But, the qualifying, they couldn't run the qualifying because it rained. It got too wet. And but what is this new system that they have now to dry the tracks?
Well, they've been drying the tracks with these, I'm not sure exactly what you call them, but they'll go around and they've got these huge dryers.
Oh, with the big fans on the truck,
Yeah, they're just a big blower, basically, that go around and dry the tracks up.
Well, there's supposed to be something new that they're coming out with next year that they're going to be able to dry them a lot quicker and more effectively. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, but I did read something.
I'll look that up.
Yeah.
I'll try to research that and report on that, but because I'm not aware of that right now. Did you see that last lap, though, with Dixon and coming up and then running into Mears? That was the only bad accident in that track, and it looked like it was really going to be a mess. But there's 2 cars involved in it, and they finished the race out on the. Yeah, good race. So if you saw that, that was an exciting race. So next week is
Martinsville. Where's that? Alabama? Or Tennessee? Is that Tennessee, Martinsville?
No. Isn't that like VA? Isn't that Virginia?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure where that is.
A lot of people think it's Martinsville, Tennessee, but it's not.
No, I think it is Virginia.
Yeah, I think it's Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's Virginia.
Yeah.
It's got about a minute left, guys. Little World Series pick, rematch of 04 and 1967.
Well, I'm a national leaguer, so I'm going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals don't, as they say time and time again, don't have a lot of superstars, but they've got a team. And you'd have to say really the same thing about the Red Sox this year. They don't have any, they got Big Poppy, but he's just another screw in the whole element of the team. And so,
I'm going to play in the National League Park. I'm going to go first base, right?
That's right. I'm going to go for the Cardinals.
Okay, I'm an American League guy. I can't imagine why, huh, Doug? But anyway,
can you?
You know what? Well, I mean, Eric is E-Man's a good friend, and I like Pedroia, and I think St. Louis has got the pitching right now going for him. But I'm going to take the Sox in 6 games. So.
There you go.
I like the Cardinals pitching. I'll go Cardinals in 7.
Well, you don't like both Sox anyway. You wouldn't like the both Sox under any circumstances. Hey, the most amazing comment tonight I've heard was hearing Don say he was looking something up on the computer.
He has an Encyclopedia Britannica at home. That's what Don has.
Wow. Guys on the computer, fantastic.
Listen, let me tell you, I was in Barnes & Noble looking at the encyclopedias today.
Oh, yeah, we want to Tim McCarver, his final World Series coming up on Fox, so we'll enjoy that. And this is his last one. He's going to retire in about 10 days. So
he's another one. We talked about retirement, and to me, he's retiring at the top of his game as well. I think he did a great job with Buck on the playoffs. I think he'll continue to do a great job in the World Series, and obviously wish Timmy a lot of luck.
Gentlemen, we're out of time, and G-Man, good luck with whatever you're doing out in Indiana. Hope it's legal.
Just trying to grow grass in the backyard.
And John, I know you have to head up north for a few days, but have a good trip, and we'll talk to you next week.
Gotcha. Take care.
Take care.